All right, here we are in the Airstream South by Southwest 2013 with Matt, the 1975. I understand this is your first time in the U.S.
It is, yeah. It's our first time here as a band. Yeah, it's an amazing way to kick it off.
Yeah,
It's been
and the
fantastic.
the anticipation is probably pretty big going into South by Southwest, kicking off your tour. I guess you go to Chicago next.
Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish kicking off this tour?
Oh, I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it. We haven't come off tour since January, and we toured a lot in December last year as well. So it's kind of this just perpetual motion of playing shows. But I think if you're playing music that people kind of really want to connect with, it's the same if you're playing in Southampton or New York City. We're just really, really looking forward to seeing what it's actually like in those parts of the country.
Well, a couple of singles have made a big splash for you back home, and I think they'll
Yeah.
have the same effect here. But I can't help but you come into our Airstream and do this pared down, beautiful acoustic version of your single,
Thank you very much.
and I in the way it's released as a single is a very booming, electric,
That's right.
powerful song. Which way was it written?
Actually, the acoustic way, really. I mean, the sentiment of that song goes back to when I was about 18. We never really got round to kind of sorting it out until we were in our early 20s. It's quite a romantic song, even though I suppose it kind of presents itself as being quite brash, both production-wise and with its narrative. I like both ways. I think you can have both ways.
Now, when if people know the single the way it's played on the radio, and then you do a concert, do you ever stop down and do it the way you just did it? It seems like that would bring girls to tears.
I had no choice when we played in Hamburg because everything broke during the set. So it was just me and a kind of 2,000 cap venue who were just desperate to see Two Door Cinema Club. So I had to serenade them with the stripped down version. But then it actually flowed quite well, and we got to go into the main version. I think I don't know, if people start to like it, then maybe we'll play it live.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
If
Thanks.
my opinion matters.
Cheers, man.
But I understand the name the 1975, which is before you were born.
That's right. Yeah.
The name. It's a strange twist of fate that led you to that name.
It is. Yeah. It's a story that's kind of been quite idealized because I think people love a story. But yeah, I was on holiday when I was about 19 in part of like the Balearic Islands, and I just met this guy who was kind of an artist, and I ended up taking loads of books home with me from his library, and in one of the books it had kind of been treated as like a diary, and it was, I suppose, quite suicidal, a bit odd. And it was dated, all the notes were dated 1st of June, 1975. I think the use of the word "the" preceding a date just really stuck with me. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to call my band that. I suppose it kind of just haunted me a little bit without it sounding too sinister. Yeah, that's where it comes from anyway.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And then this is a tricky thing to talk about because people like to put music into little boxes and say, oh, it's
They
this,
do.
it's that, it's that. And I would have a very hard time putting your music into any sort of
Think about what
category.
it's like for me.
And so that being said, let's put it this way. You're coming over to the U.S. You mentioned you were supporting Two Door Cinema Club.
That's right.
So where would you put yourself if you're like, oh, I wish I could go on tour with so-and-so this year? That's a good fit. That's the audience I think I would appeal to.
That's a good question. I don't know. We're big fans of Phoenix and M83. Big fans of both those artists. I don't know. I think times are changing, Like, I think the way that people consume all media has totally changed, and the way that kids listen to music is totally changed. We're kind of that generation. We like create in the same way that we consume. So we're not really harbored by any kind of predetermined idea of what we should sound like. So it's difficult to listen to our records and kind of be objective and think, oh, well, this is like that. It just sounds like us lot. Yeah. So I don't know. I think you could put us in with kind of pop acts. You could put us in with indie acts, or potentially even R&B.
Which is exactly why I wanted to ask you that question. I wouldn't even know where I would You could go a lot of different
I
directions.
think with the album, it was very inspired by John Hughes, the kind of work of John Hughes. That was the main thing. That's been like one of the biggest driving forces for me inspirationally.
Which is what I grew up on. Can you expound on that?
Well, yeah, just movies like Pretty in Pink and,
Yeah.
and The Breakfast Club and stuff like that. There's such a kind of, they have like proper soundtracks, you know, like soundtracks that really make you feel something. And that's kind of where I fell in love with music at a young age. Just like, I grew up on a farm, so it was all like just watching the video. So,
You strike me as a farm kid.
yeah, really. But yeah, what, a bit weird and a bit off. No, I just think that yeah, there's a lot of kind of, when artists were, I think in the 80s it gets a bit of a bad rep. If you look at like Peter Gabriel on So, or like Paul Simon on Graceland, or Michael Jackson on Bad, you know, I mean, they're all geniuses, but I think that's the kind of record that we strive to make. Yeah.
I think you're right on point with that.
Oh, let's hope so.
Well, anyhow, thanks for coming into the Airstream. Good luck with your first tour of the U.S., and I wish you the best of success.
Thank you so much. Take care.